The story begins with the world being destroyed, again. The protagonist ends up running into a wild demon girl. She's insanely strong, super high level, and can one-shot anything, but at least she's ridiculously hot. The main character ends up becoming a doomed one, convinced his end has finally come. It all started the year a game called The Will of the Earth merged with the real world. Monsters and NPCs started showing up on Earth. The planet was on the brink of collapse, but luckily, everyone turned into players. Everyone started at level 0 and could fight the monsters, except for Cie. He waited for the system window to pop up, but it never did. He was just an average college student, nothing special. And right when things mattered most, something weird happened. His character creation was interrupted. Cie, stunned, realizes the system window vanished. He can't equip anything, can't gain XP, can't level up. His whole interface is bugged. In that situation, no powers, no skills. There's no way a normal person survives. Cie totally panics. He thinks how sad it would be to die without ever doing anything. But even with a resigned smile, he says he did what he could. First things first, find a safe place and come up with a survival plan. Luckily, he at least got a backpack. He checks the potions, wondering if they're the newbie kind. He looks at the system window and figures that, since he's stuck in this mess, his best bet is to find a shelter and team up with other nearby players. While he's doing that, something suddenly falls from the sky. Cie turns around and sees a giant pink beam crashing down. At the same time, a mysterious guy watches from afar, wondering if that is what showed up after Judgment Day. Cie hides behind a rock and spies on a monster walking the earth, surrounded by a pink aura. He wonders if it's a wild boss. As the aura fades, the leader of the celestial demons appears. Belial. Hand on her chest, she says this is the place from the prophetic dream, where the demon king would appear. Cie peeks out from behind the rock, wondering if she's really an S-rank monster. He thinks Belial is stunningly beautiful. She surveys the area, licks her finger, and says she loves poking around weird places. Spotting a plush toy shop, she smiles and shouts that this is the perfect place. She declares she'll wait here for the Demon King to appear. Belial pulls out a perfect sketch of the protagonist, saying she saw him in her dream. She skips around excitedly, dying to meet the Demon King. When some people approach, she complains they're ruining the scenery. Terrified, they whisper they should aim for her face. Belial raises her hand, glowing with pink aura, and activates a skill called Territory Cleanse. A massive pink circle forms on the ground, then boom. The skill causes an instant explosion that wipes out anything 10 levels below the attack's level. Cie watches in horror and asks, "What the hell is going on?" Belial, still glowing, scoffs that humans have gotten way too soft. I mean, the Demon King is about to show up, and they couldn't even roll out a red carpet. Cie is still shaking behind the rock, thinking he needs to get out of there ASAP. But Belial turns around, looks directly where he's hiding, and spots him. She walks up and asks how he managed to survive her attack. He covers his mouth, certain this is the end. Suddenly, a yellow beam wrapped in aura flies by. Cie flinches, nearly gets hit. Terrified, he asks, "What was that?" The beam lands near Belial. Furious, she says someone's attacking her. She dodged it, but now she's baring her teeth in rage, swearing it could only be Roland. Roland approaches and casually comments that she's a bit on edge. She snaps, asking how he dares say that after almost making her lose balance. Grinning, Roland says there's no reason to be so harsh. He's a priest, humanity's highest authority. His title, the hope of humanity. Belial points at him and yells, asking why he's even here. With a smug face, he replies, "Isn't it obvious? I'm here to arrest the new Demon King." He says he saw this place in a prophecy but wasn't sure it was the right one. He looks around and confirms, "So this is the place." Furious and glowing with pink aura, Belial shouts she won't let him mess with the Demon King's destiny. She leaps toward him, eyes glowing hot pink, and punches him. Roland blocks with crossed arms. She strikes again but drops the Demon King's sketch. She slams the ground with aura, and Roland summons a one-handed weapon, continuing the fight with his trademark smirk. Cie, still behind the rock, watches in total shock, completely lost. Who even is this guy? Where the hell is he now? Belial loses half her HP bar from Roland's hit, barely staying on her feet, and asks if he really thinks he can beat her. Then, she heals and powers up even more. With a huge leap, she charges at Roland, screaming that she's going to kill him. Roland, sweating bullets, thinks she's totally nuts, and if she kills him, everything's screwed. But he's still got one last move. As Belial closes in, he pulls out a piece of paper. Nobody knows what it is. She stops, confused, and asks, "What's that?" Roland shows her the exact same sketch of the Demon King. Belial freezes, captivated by the image. That's when Roland sucker punches her in the face. She goes flying, straight towards Xiaoyi. He sees it all, totally stunned, unable to process what just happened. Belial gets up, sees her torn sketch, holds it in her hands, and thinks bitterly about how a priest dared to pull such a cheap move, using her pure love for the Demon King, and hit her on top of that. Furious, she turns toward the rock, and locks eyes with Xiaoyi. Her eyes go wide, and with awe in her voice she says she's finally found him. Roland rushes over and slices her in half. Xiaoyi stands there, completely frozen, as Belial's blood splashes all over his face. Roland holds his sword, glowing with yellow aura, and says everything's set. He admits it was worthy of the Demon King title to put him in such a tight spot, but it doesn't matter anymore. All that's left is to set some traps, wait for the Demon King to show again, and finish him off. If he's just a level 1 Demon King, it shouldn't be too hard. With a trap in hand, Roland smiles, thinking he just needs to find the spot from the prophecy. Then he turns, and sees Xiaoyi, and that's when it hits him. The Demon King had been standing there the whole time, silent, right behind him. Roland activates his scan skill, but it glitches, so he upgrades it and scans Xiaoyi again. What shows up is a completely unknown demon. He has no idea what's going on. How is this possible? Roland panics, realizing that even going all out, he couldn't beat this guy. Maybe the Demon King's plan was to let his underlings wear Roland down to almost 0 HP, and then go in for the kill. What a cruel, calculating trickster of a Demon King. His whole life flashes before his eyes. Roland claps his hands and summons a yellow aura. Xiaoyi stands up and wipes the blood off his face. Roland's freaking out, thinking this is it. Meanwhile, an aura forms around Xiaoyi's head, and his only thought is, how dare that guy hurt him? The Demon King is furious and wants to destroy everything. But in reality, Xiaoyi just pulls out a tiny potion bottle and offers it to Roland. Roland stares at him, sweat pouring down his face. Xiaoyi scratches his head and says his HP's almost gone, but he still has this, and, kind of awkwardly, asks if he wants the potion. The truth is, the Demon King has no clue who he is. Sometime later, the merge between Earth and the game world had already covered 30% of the planet. People had started awakening as players and fighting monsters. A random guy with a grin says this is awesome. Helping players evolve is his job as an NPC. He looks out a window at the wrecked buildings and asks how Roland's doing. A man in a suit replies the boss monster that triggered the Demon King's awakening has been defeated. He checks the system window and says that if they manage to kill the new Demon King next time, it'll be a piece of cake. Just leave it all to Roland, he says. No reason to worry. The man smirks and says, as usual, Roland came up with a genius plan, and is executing it perfectly, truly worthy of the title Hope of Humanity. Meanwhile, Xiaoyi still holds out the potion and asks if Roland's gonna drink it or not. Roland stares, scared it might be poison. Is this revenge for his people? Sweating like crazy, he thinks Xiaoyi could kill him with a breath, but instead he's giving him a potion. No way he's letting him off that easy. What a devious demon. If he refuses to drink it, he's dead for sure. But since he has no idea what's really going on, this might be his only chance. So Roland activates Poison Resistance level 8, boosts health to level 11, magic defense to 9, and general level to 10. He maxes all attributes to level 10 and even adds a top-tier luck boost. Looking like he's walking to the gallows, Roland drinks the potion, clenches his fists waiting for the worst. But his HP goes up by 50. He stares at the bottle, shocked, and asks if that was just a basic starter potion. Xiaoyi apologizes, saying it was all he had in his backpack. Roland clutches his chest, thinking he almost died of shock, his face drenched in sweat. He wonders how that despicable Demon King had the audacity to trick him like that. Xiaoyi points at the health bar and says at least he managed to survive. Then he asks what exactly they're looking for on Earth. Xiaoyi scratches his chin and says actually, he wanted to know something else. How to get to the nearest beginner safe zone. He says it out loud, thinking that's the place where noob players and weaklings can train in peace. Roland, with a sarcastic smile, thinks he finally gets the plan. Those safe zones are where freshly awakened adventurers are, the same ones who'll defeat him in the future. So, the Demon King wants to wipe them out before they become strong. What a dirty move. He looks down, unsure if he should really hand those newbies over just to survive. They walk through a street full of destroyed buildings. Xia Yi happily says that Roland is a really good guy. Roland thinks that, in the end, he truly is humanity's irreplaceable hope. Then he turns to look at Xia Yi, thinking this is the perfect moment to kill him. Suddenly, they both look up and see a giant monster flying straight at them. Roland draws his sword, slashes quickly, and braces against the blast from a powerful attack. He turns and sees several level 42 guardian demons flying toward him. He raises his sword, aims at one's head, and pierces it in a single blow. Then he starts spinning the blade in all directions, wiping out all the demons. Xia Yi watches in awe, thinking that even with his health almost at zero, Roland can still take on high-level monsters. Then, with a panicked look, he turns around and sees a monster with glowing green eyes leaping at him. The creature shouts something in a weird language, saying that's its boss. Roland sees it, and wonders if Xia Yi is going to do anything. If he does, maybe he'll reveal more about his fighting style. But Xia Yi just drops to the ground and clings to Roland's side, desperately begging for help. A bearded monster with glowing eyes leaps right over Roland's head. He slices it in two and triggers an explosive skill through his blade. Roland looks down and thinks, what kind of weird, hopeless scene is this? Even when monsters go all out, he never backs down. But you can tell he's got a ton of confidence. Still, even with all that power, he doesn't realize he's the one chosen to defeat the Demon King. Looks like luck's on his side. With Xia Yi clinging to him, Roland can barely stand and asks if he can loosen his grip a little. The way things are, he can't even move. Xia Yi lets go, opens the system window, and sees a bunch of potions in his inventory. He's surprised, thinking they must have come from some wild boss he accidentally beat. A bit earlier, near Belial's body, Xia Yi looks at her and asks if Roland's gonna loot anything. Roland says NPCs have common sense and don't loot monster corpses. So Xia Yi asks if he can, grabs some clothes from Belial, and says he doesn't mind taking them. With a big grin, he holds her stuff up and asks if Roland's sure he doesn't want anything too. After all, they're divine clothes. Roland, flustered, shouts that of course he's not taking anything. Xia Yi figures it must be some error with Roland's account. Too bad he won't even be able to use those clothes. But then he notices something in Belial's outfit, and calls Roland over. They start reading a book with some really weird content. Roland suddenly dashes off, thinking he can't leave this world in the hands of such a disgusting demon. Xia Yi thinks about looting everything a high-level boss dropped. Anyone would be thrilled with that kind of luck. If only he'd had that luck when creating his account. He looks ahead, pumped up, thinking he's come this far, so he's gotta do whatever it takes to survive. Then he watches Roland fighting off the remaining monsters and thinks it's amazing. Maybe one day, he'll be that strong too. Roland takes a deep breath and says they've reached a safe zone. As they look forward, they see a massive building. It's the prestigious Xingqian University. Xia Yi is shocked, realizing that was his school. Later, a photo of Belial drops to the floor as some unknown people comment that she was defeated and died. Several demons are seated around a table talking. A red-haired girl says out loud that they should send someone to find the new Demon King. Then a white-haired demon girl with a halo says only Belial saw him in a prophetic dream. Babylon, one of the 7 sovereigns, lounges on a couch, resting her chin on crossed arms with a thoughtful expression. She asks how they're supposed to find the Demon King if even Belial couldn't. Mammon, another demon leader, places a hand over her chest and confidently says Belial left behind a clue before dying. She looks at a sketch of the Demon King and says they'll recognize him with that. Babylon stands up and faces Mammon, saying she's just in time. According to info from a demon informant, Roland killed Belial and left the Demon King's birthplace, heading straight to the safe zone at the Agricultural University, and taking someone with him. Mammon thinks it through and concludes that person might be the Demon King. She pulls a paper from her pocket, saying the informant sent a sketch of an unknown figure. Babylon holds up a photo of Xia Yi and says that's his face. Mammon tosses the photo in the air with a grin, saying at least this proves the Demon King wasn't captured by Roland and is still safe. She shouts that there's no time to waste. They need to mobilize everyone they can. They must find the Demon King ASAP. Meanwhile, Xiaoyu looks around, amazed, and asks if this is the famous safe zone. He sees a huge line of people and says there are way too many. Roland looks at him with a smug smile, thinking his acting is pretty good. But that arrogant idiot has no clue what's coming. The entire agricultural university is a giant trap. The safe zone is protected by the gods using a system device called Bird Gang, which seals all monster abilities. No matter how strong a monster is, if it steps in, it's done for. The game rules seal them, the system takes over, and killing them becomes easy. Roland thinks Xiaoyu will die because of his own arrogance and ignorance. And he, as the prophecy says, will be the hero who leads the players to defeat the Demon King. After some time, they enter a building where several NPCs are standing. One of them sees them and asks if that's the hero Roland, the one the prophecy said would lead everyone to defeat the Demon King. Roland is surprised and says his greatness doesn't even need to be debated. One NPC exclaims that he didn't expect such an honored guest. He says it's an honor and that he heard Roland went straight for the Demon King at the very beginning, while it was still in its cradle. He asks, "So, did you destroy that wicked creature?" Xiaoyu hands one of them the documents, and says Roland really is an amazing guy. The man asks if he got what he meant and points at Roland with admiration, saying loudly that he is humanity's hope. The prophecy clearly speaks of him, the one who rallied the players to defeat the Demon King. Another NPC holding a stack of papers says the production of sealing steel is complete in the safe zone. It's steel strong enough to seal monsters. Roland jumps in horror and yells at him to stop talking. He grabs the guy's collar and shakes him, yelling if they're really that eager to destroy the world. Xiaoyu thinks he'd love to become a hero like Roland too, strong and kind. But Roland only thinks that the end is finally near. Just one more step and the righteous side will win. He slams Xiaoyu against the wall and yells that now he'll feel the system's unbearable power. Xiaoyu looks at him, confused, asking what he meant by that. He's standing right there inside the system, and nothing's happening. Roland is completely baffled. With a worried look, he wonders why the plan failed. Turns out the bird gang that was protecting the area has broken. Roland glares at Xiaoyu, wondering if he's some kind of being even the system can't contain. Xiaoyu grabs his attention and says this just proves how strong the system is. What he means is, since the safe zone is under system protection and he's inside it now, he's totally safe. Xiaoyu smiles and says there's just one little thing that's bothering him. Roland, clearly on edge, asks what he's planning to do, but suddenly, a huge explosion hits. A crazy amount of energy surges past several nearby players and NPCs. The players, scared, look around and ask what the hell just happened. Was it an enemy attack? One of the NPCs says he thinks it was just a server crash. He tells them not to worry. It was just lag. After all, this is a safe zone, and the system device, the Bird Gang, protects everyone. As they look at the device, they wonder if the Bird Gang always looked like that. One of them says he doesn't even remember, but it seems a little weird now. The NPC turns to the players and says there's nothing to worry about anyway. After all, their hope, the strongest force of humanity, Roland, is right there with them. He turns to Roland, calls him master, and asks if he could say a few words to the people. But suddenly, Roland drops to his knees and screams, asking why he's so scared. With a desperate expression, he wonders what kind of sick joke this is, trying to twist the system into some symbol of love. He tried to use the Bird Gang to trap Xiaoyu through system power, and now he's wondering if that is the real difference between them. He's completely in shock, wondering what happens if they just give up. Xiaoyu looks at him and asks if he's okay. He heard it was just lag. Nothing serious happened. He says he never imagined Roland would be that scared and gives him a pat on the shoulder, telling him to pull himself together. After all, he is humanity's hope, right? How can he be freaking out at the start of the game? Roland completely misreads the situation and thinks this Demon King is absolutely insane. He grits his teeth and asks what he wants. Does he want him to say it out loud? Xiaoyu looks confused, thinking, is he talking about assigning quests and rewards? He's touched by Roland's words. Then, all excited, he grabs Roland's hands and says he's got a little request. The two of them walk down a busy street. Xiaoyu says if he wants to survive in the safe zone, he'll have to learn how to cook. Roland stares at him, confused, thinking he expected some disgusting request. But nope. He just wants to learn how to cook. Xia Yi turns to him and asks, "He's the hero who's going to lead the players to defeat the Demon King, right?" He says that ever since he was a kid, he loved hero stories and dreamed of becoming one. But because of the bug in his account, now he's kinda lost. But now that fate. Roland looks at him completely confused, not understanding what's going on. Sometime later, the cooking skill mentor he asks, "A guy who's afraid to fight wants to be a chef, and take a shortcut on top of that." Meanwhile, the first aid mentor, Li Bingbing, says, "Who'd want to go out monster hunting if it were that easy?" He keeps questioning him, asking if he really thinks learning to cook will help him make money. He says cooking is an expensive skill to learn. Beginner players usually guard every coin they earn. At most, they manage to scrape together 10 silver coins after a few hours. And that's just enough to learn the basics of cooking. Xia Yi opens the system window and shows his inventory, saying he doesn't have much money. But when the mentors see that he has over 10 gold coins, they're left speechless. He immediately calls him boss and apologizes. Li Bingbing comments that if he managed to gather that much money so early on, he must have something special. But since they're NPCs with their own rules, they won't flatter him just because he's rich. He says that while the money is enough to get started, it's not nearly enough to level up the skill fast. If he doesn't improve his cooking, he won't profit from it. With the fusion of worlds speeding up, both resources and new players are vanishing. The ingredients needed to level up cooking are no longer available in the market. The only option is to buy them directly from NPCs. But that would cost a fortune. He says it'd be better to spend the money on gear and level up fast. With what he's got, he could buy the best items available for his level. But Xia Yi lowers his head shyly and says he has personal reasons. Then, he turns to Roland and suddenly asks a question that catches him completely off guard. There's no way out. Roland is furious, wondering why Xia Yi is looking at him like that. That damn Demon King had already scared and humiliated him. And now he wants his money too. He'd rather die than go through that humiliation again. But he can't take it anymore. Backed into a corner, he gives in, pulls out a small pouch of coins, and says it's all he has. Xia Yi takes the 17 gold coins and says he wasn't even planning to borrow them in the end. Suddenly, Li Bingbing cuts in and says it's still not enough. Xia Yi immediately turns around and looks her in the eyes. Desperate, Roland takes off his coat, worth 48 gold coins, but still not enough. He gives up his sword too, worth the same, and still nothing. Then, he starts taking off all his clothes and even stares at his underwear, which some fans would pay 99 gold coins for. He gives that up too. Finally, in a fit of rage, he punches the wall, thinking that damn Demon King took everything from him. And even then, Li Bingbing says it's not enough. She explains that the most basic crafting skill is equal to a C-rank combat skill. You can't start from zero. He asks again if the master doesn't have a valuable watch. Roland looks at his watch in horror. It was a gift from his father when he became an adult. Even so, Xia Yi ends up receiving the Lu family's heirloom watch. Then Li Bingbing asks why the master is treating him so well. Does he really think Xia Yi has potential? Slightly embarrassed, Xia Yi asks if she truly believes that. Does Roland really have that much faith in him? He says he told Roland he wanted to be a hero and asked for his full support, but never imagined he'd take it so seriously. He says he's moved. Roland, sitting nearby, starts crying, hating the entire world and wishing someone would put an end to his suffering. Xia Yi turns around and asks, "What about making money?" Li Bingbing replies that if he wants to earn some cash, he should try the merchant NPC. At the start of the game, players make money by selling items. Later on, they're shown at the marketplace, in the system shop. A guy is trying to sell a C-rank short underwear for 3 coins, an E-rank one for 8 coins, and even a pinky bone from a D-rank skeleton. The merchant says he's got good stuff. A guy wearing a helmet asks how much he'll pay for it. The vendor says 1 silver coin and 20 copper. The player gets mad, says that's worthless, and storms out of the shop, complaining that you can't upgrade any skills with that kind of money. He starts crying, shouting that being a player is way too hard. Xia Yi watches and thinks that in every world, money is always the problem. He walks into the shop and asks if he can sell a few things. The merchant turns around and tells him to lay it all on the table so he can take a look. Xia Yi puts everything Roland gave him on the counter. The clerk is stunned when he realizes they're all ranked items. He furrows his brow, thinking he's seen these before. Then he's even more shocked when he realizes they all belong to Roland. Xiaoyi opens his inventory and says, "I've got one more thing." He pulls out Belial's armor. The vendor, in shock, asks out loud if that's also Roland's. He looks at the armor, a bit flustered, thinking it's super stylish. Xiaoyi places the two items on the counter and asks how much he can get for them. The merchant says he doesn't recognize them and will have to do an appraisal. He raises his hand and immediately activates his level 99 appraisal skill. When the results pop up, he's left speechless. The system window shows that the horns are from an adult demon, used in cooking, medicine, and even as aphrodisiac jewelry. Belial's breastplate is a level 50 S-rank item. It boosts strength by 50, agility and crit by 199, and endurance by 152. It also has 4 gem slots. The sell price is 340 gold coins. Shocked, the vendor screams, asking how that's even possible. A nearby player yells in frustration, asking if they're messing with him. He got just 2 silver coins for his heavy armor, but this fine-looking cloth armor is worth over 300 gold coins. The vendor shouts that the guy doesn't understand anything. He stares at the armor awkwardly and says that for some things, the finer it is, the better. It's so soft and light it feels like air. Its value is over 200% higher. He sniffs the fabric and says it even smells nice, and is worth way more, 680 gold coins. Eyes sparkling, he says this is a rare item, and he's willing to pay that much because it's simply priceless. Xiaoyi, wide-eyed, asks in disbelief, "It's really that expensive?" The vendor looks at him seriously and says he doesn't recommend selling it. If he does, it'll be recycled, and he'll never see it again. Xiaoyi replies that then again, it's not like he can sell it to other players either. So the merchant says he should just keep it, even if it's armor, and he'll look ridiculous wearing it, because once he hits the required level, he'll be able to equip it. It'll be a massive upgrade and make future fights much easier. Xiaoyi leaves the shop after selling absolutely everything, and in the end, he bags 955 gold coins. The merchant slams the counter in outrage, yelling who the hell would sell gear that valuable to someone else. But Xiaoyi doesn't even look back and walks away satisfied. He gets lost in his own imagination, thinking that in this player-run world, some people aim to defeat the final boss and save the world. Others want to dominate the arena and climb the rankings. There are explorers chasing new opportunities. And of course, there are the rich, those who can afford exclusive gear just for themselves. Even without combat skills, they manage to take part in boss fights. He sees himself as one of those. In a daydream, he imagines himself beside the Demon King, surrounded by allies. One of them hands him a sword, saying only he is worthy of delivering the final blow. A frightened girl begs him not to do it, but he simply touches the demon's forehead and says he doesn't even need a sword. He defeats the final boss, and the system declares him the savior. People cheer, shouting that he's the hero who defeated the devil. Xiaoyi smiles, thinking this is the path of a hero. With money, he can carve out that path himself. While his team fights monsters, he just stands to the side. Right now, he's leveling up his cooking skill like crazy. Just thinking about it fills him with warmth and hope for the future. He was so focused, he didn't even realize he'd maxed out the cooking skill. When he walks out of the building, someone notices and asks how the skill's going. Xiaoyi replies that he already maxed it out. The person smiles and excitedly asks if he's already mastered the basics. Says the next step is intermediate level. It'll be tougher, but he should give it his all. Xiaoyi walks past and says he finished that too. The person freezes, thinking. Shocked? Then that means he's already at Grandmaster level? Their expression instantly changes. Xiaoyi smiles, thinking that a bugged account isn't a big deal. After all, this is just the beginning of the game. And from that moment on, without even realizing it, the Demon King set a goal to defeat himself. Walking down the street, he reflects that the role of NPCs is to help players gain experience. But the player's role is to defeat the Demon King. At the end of the day, he has the hardest quest of all, just surviving in this world. And when he really thinks about it, he got super lucky early on. Then a system message pops up. There's no more space in his inventory. Besides the potions and Belial's egg, it's filled with handmade miniatures. Xiaoyi smiles and thinks it's time to make a decision and move on to the next step. At that moment, the bus driver yells, asking if he's getting on or not. Later, Xiaoyi gets off at his stop, looks up at the massive building, and says it's the team's meeting hall. Inside, some people are chatting, saying they heard everyone in the group is already level 15 and that their combat power ranks among the top 5. They also say they're real pros, even taking on level 6 monsters. Xia Yi enters and hears someone say the captain is a professional player. Qin Haoren, a level 16 rookie thief with combat power 10, says now that their supplies are in, they're ready to go. Lu Jiu, a level 15 rookie archer with combat power 3, says she thinks the team needs one more player since the monsters are getting stronger, and asks the captain what he thinks. Qin Haoren replies that if someone new joins, they'll have to share the loot with him, and that the 4 of them are enough. Besides, they already have An Lu, a rookie assassin on the team, but all info about her is confidential. Then he hugs Xiaoyuan, a level 16 apprentice priestess with a combat power of 4, and reminds everyone that efficiency is what matters for pro players. He warns, if anyone falls behind, I'll kick them from the party without hesitation, even if it's my own sister. Xiaoyuan yells that she'll do her best not to get kicked out. Qin Haoren starts walking and says everyone needs to give it their all. The girls follow and agree. Suddenly, a system window pops up right in front of him, catching his attention. It's a portrait of Xia Yi with a request to join the party. Qin Haoren instantly declines and wonders where this idiot came from. But the request pops up again. He declines again, but the windows keep appearing one after another. A smirk forms on his face as he thinks, does this guy really think he can fool me like this? He starts clicking fast to decline all the pop-ups. But this time, the system shows that Xia Yi has sent a trade request. Qin Haoren opens his eyes wide and asks if he's trying to negotiate now. He accepts, curious to see what this guy has to offer. The system window opens, and he's completely stunned. Xia Yi sent 10 gold coins. He shouts in shock, asking if this is for real. How is that even possible? He thinks that with all his resource hoarding skills, he's only managed to gather 2 gold coins and 57 silver so far. And this guy just throws out 10 gold coins right from the start, when even learning basic combat skills takes insane planning due to lack of resources. 10 gold coins would be enough to master basic skills and get a solid gear set. That would make leveling up 5 times faster. Who in their right mind throws away that kind of fortune? And even weirder, who has that kind of money at the beginning? Is he some high-ranking player? Or is this some trick no one's seen before? He wonders whether he should accept or reject. Finally, he waves his hand and shouts, 10 gold coins? What kind of idiot would say no to that? He accepts right away and then says, but what kind of idiot gives all that to someone like me? His attention goes back to the system window, which now shows the party join request again. Later, when they finally meet, Qin Haoren asks if he's hiring them to escort him to his old home to retrieve something important. Xia Yi confirms and says he asked around and found out the place is now occupied by level 18 moles. He can't go alone. He needs their help. Lu Jiu responds that he's got to be joking. They're not here to do charity, and their ranking is way too important. Qin Haoren starts fake crying and says out loud, since when did you become so heartless? Then, with the sweetest face ever, he says that if they want to be a real pro team, they need to be motivated by love for others, and they accept the quest. Lu Jiu looks at him, stunned, and quietly asks what's gotten into him. Later, at the building entrance, she follows Qin Haoren and yells at their teams at the top of the rankings. How could he accept a mission like this? He turns around, opens the system window, and tells her to take a look. When Lu Jiu sees his inventory, she's completely shocked and yells, where did he get all those gold coins? She starts putting the pieces together. That weak-looking guy gave him all that? Could there be some treasure in the place he wants to go back to? Qin Haoren smirks and says he's got it figured out. There must be a ton of treasure in there. Xiaoyuan, stunned, asks if he really plans to rob Xia Yi. He says the stuff in there is probably worth way more than 10 gold coins, and that'll make the team even stronger. And if it ends in death, the mission's value will rise even more. He asks if everyone's on board with this. Lu Jiu looks away and says she has no answer for that. So he looks around and asks where An Lu is. She's up on a nearby pole, watching them from above. She says if they can win, she's in. Xiaoyuan, looking worried, says she has something to say, but Qin Haoren completely ignores her and says no one cares. That stuns her so much she's frozen in place. He keeps walking down the empty street, saying it's time to move forward. The hunt is about to begin. After a while, Qin Haoren and his team defeat several monsters on the street. He turns around and asks the boss if this is the place. Xia Yi looks at the building with a smile, and says he lives on the 6th floor. Qin Haoren swings his knife with a smile, and says there's nothing to worry about. Even if those moles are level 18, they're pros and will protect him no problem. Soon after, they walk through a grimy hallway, and everyone seems calm with Xia Yi in the group, except for Xiao Yuan, who says something's off. Ever since they accepted the mission, she's had a weird feeling. A system window pops up saying this is a residential building with a level 25 unknown type quest. She says she doesn't like this at all. Qin Haoren looks at her and asks if she thinks she knows the game better than he does. He walks ahead and says if she doesn't know anything, she should shut up and follow the team, and if she pisses him off again, he'll leave her behind to die. When they reach the right floor, Xia Yi starts looking for apartment 606. He finds it, thanks the team, and says they're really reliable. Qin Haoren smiles wide and tells him to go grab his stuff quickly. Xia Yi calmly starts opening the door, but Qin Haoren dashes toward him, about to stab him in the back. Suddenly, a level 22, rank A mutant sewer rat ambushes the team, interrupting the attack. They jump aside just in time, and the rat's attack smashes into the floor. Qin Haoren, completely shocked, yells, "What the hell is a level 22, rank A monster doing here? You guys made it out, right?" The whole team backs up against the wall and confirms. Xiao Yuan asks where the boss is. They all turn and see Xia Yi falling into a hole created by the rat's attack. Everyone goes silent for a few seconds, just staring. No one moves. Then, a huge grin spreads across Qin Haoren's face, and he says the boss is gone. And Lu, calm as ever, jumps into the hole and says she'll go save him. He shouts her name as the rat watches her disappear into the hole. Qin Haoren, surprised, says that was completely unnecessary. Then Lu Jiu shouts, calling his attention. She faces the monster, and says they've got a serious problem. Qin asks where all these clumps came from. A level 22 monster? Lu Jiu says even with a well-balanced team and good teamwork, it's nearly impossible for 3 players to beat a monster of that rank. Xiao Yuan, worried, asks if there's any chance, considering their level difference. She's 6 levels below. Lu Jiu replies there is, but the risk is sky-high. The treasure's right there, and they've already wasted a lot of time. It would suck to walk away empty-handed. Getting rewards is harder every time. Their only option might be to retreat. Qin Haoren stares at the ground and says maybe it's worth another look. Something's strange about that monster. Then the rat suddenly yells that it's sorry. The Demon King starts looking around, trying to locate him. He looks down the hole, terrified, and says out loud that the Demon King fell in. As Xia Yi falls, he starts crying and asks if he's going to die now. If he dies, will the system wake him up again? And that's exactly what happens. He hits the ground, loses 999 HP, but stays alive. He didn't even feel any pain. The system says he earned the achievement, Lost Kid, for surviving a 20-meter fall. He looks up at the hole in the ceiling and asks what he's supposed to do now. For now, all he can do is wait for the team to come save him. Several rats run toward him excitedly, chattering in rat language, celebrating the presence of the Demon King. But suddenly, several daggers fly past Xia Yi, hitting the rats and throwing them away. He shakes in fear, asking what the hell that was. Then he hears a voice. Lu arrives and tells him not to be scared. Xia Yi turns toward the voice and asks who it is. When he sees her, he recognizes her right away and says, "Oh, it's you." She calmly says the place is dangerous, and they need to be careful. She walks toward an invisible wall, and says there's no way up that way. Xia Yi is shocked and asks if that's even possible. Lu calmly says it looks like they'll have to find another way back. He looks to the side and asks if they can go up the stairs. She says he should go first. Xia Yi opens his eyes wide and asks loudly if he's supposed to lead. Lu looks at him in silence for a few seconds and says nothing. Then, with an annoyed face, she asks what's his problem. Does he really want a shadow assassin to go first? It's no secret that her job is to work from the shadows. That's literally the whole point of her role. Xia Yi yells that she totally doesn't get him. Even though he's terrified, he finally agrees and says the most important thing is that she protects him. Lu looks at him, nods, and says not to worry. But deep down, she's thinking that as long as that idiot walks ahead without suspecting anything, he's just exposing his back to her. He's going to die without ever knowing what hit him. The main goal is the treasure, and he'll regret ever trusting her. She quickly jumps toward him and activates her level 1 backstab skill. But Xia Yi pulls out a piece of fried chicken from his inventory, turns around just in time, and she stabs the knife straight into the plate. And Lu is in shock, completely lost. Did her lucky strike just hit the chicken dead on? What the hell is going on? None of this makes sense. Xia Yi checks his HP and says he already trained his skills enough, and since his health wasn't full, it made sense to eat. He looks down and asks if she really grabbed the knife just to cut the chicken. He's confused as Lu jumps back in a flash. She seriously thinks there's something very wrong with this guy. He looks weak, but casually tossed out 10 gold coins and even has cooking skills. And now that chicken blocked her attack like it was nothing. He must have seen it coming. Even a level 16 warrior wouldn't survive a backstab without a shield. He's hiding something. She needs to stay alert. You'll see. There's poison in that chicken. Just one bite, and she might end up as his puppet. And there'd be no turning back. Even though she says she'd never eat it, she grabs the chicken and takes a bite. Xia Yi asks if she likes it. And Lu snaps back to reality, and realizes she gave in because of the smell. And thanks to that dish, her level jumped to 21, and all her skills got a boost. The system notifies her that she advanced her class and became an assassin. She stares at the chicken in her hand, realizing that it not only made her stronger but also upgraded all her skills and gave her a class promotion. She starts panicking. What the hell? Is this just a chicken? No way. This is clearly some kind of modifier. She's a pro assassin from the shadows. She's taken out even overpowered players. And this guy seems so normal. Could he actually be stronger than that idiot Qin Haoren? Suddenly, Lu bows before him and declares that from now on, she belongs to him and will follow all his orders. Xia Yi is shocked and loudly asks why she just said that out of nowhere. He looks at her, completely confused, thinking that at first he thought she had 8th grader syndrome. He smiles and tells her he never planned on taking her hostage. He just wanted her to protect him. How are you gonna protect me if your HP isn't full? He asks. And Lu looks at him and repeats, just protect you. Xia Yi nods and says that, after all, he's the boss who paid. Then he keeps walking, and Lu stays frozen for a few seconds. Then, blushing, she looks at him and says, understood, sir. I'll protect you. Meanwhile, on the 6th floor, Qin Haoren attacks a sewer rat. His strike doesn't deal much damage, but the monster still dies. The rat, in truth, didn't want to fight anymore. It feels guilty for hurting its demon king and believes it doesn't deserve to live. The giant mutant rat chooses death, bites its tongue, and kills itself. In its final moment, it forgives itself and finds peace. Qin Haoren watches the body fade away, stunned, and asks, did that rat just kill itself? Xiao Yuan looks at him and says that apparently, he managed to defeat a high-rank monster with a 6th level gap. Could he really be a pro player? Qin Haoren checks the system window and is surprised to see he unlocked the title. Insanely strong person. The condition was to kill a monster 5 levels higher. He activates the title. The system notifies him that his HP, attack, and defense have increased by 3%. Qin Haoren grins and says he didn't expect to get so lucky. Maybe he really is the main character? He wonders what other abilities he might have awakened. Xiao Yuan looks away and says this shouldn't be happening. She's had a weird feeling ever since they entered the place. Qin smiles and says it's just pointless paranoia. He kicks open a door and says that now he's an insanely strong guy who can one-shot a level 22 elite monster. He turns to the group and asks with a grin, so tell me, what's there to be afraid of? Xiao Yuan yells his name and tells him to look out. Qin Haoren looks at her, shaking in fear and confusion, and asks what she's looking at. She points and yells that he's looking in the wrong direction. The monster's behind him. He barely has time to turn before taking a brutal hit that sends him flying into the wall. He crashes to the ground, writhing, with over half his health gone. He scrambles up, terrified, wondering how this is even possible. Is it really a monster that high level? The system window pops up and confirms it. It's a level 35 A-rank feline demon boss. The monster activates Roar LV.1 and unleashes powerful sonic waves at the two girls. Both are blasted into a wall, left with only 32% HP. Xiao Yuan, stumbling, asks why this is happening. Monsters that strong should only appear in dungeons. Lu Jiao shouts, how the hell is this possible? Xiao Yuan replies that she's felt something off ever since they entered the building. Could this place have turned into an instance? What do they do now? Lu Jio says maybe that's why there are so many high-level monsters here. Qin Haoren says he'll distract the boss so they can find an escape route, but before he even moves, the monster attacks again. He gets slammed and ends up with barely any health. He yells desperately for someone to heal him. Now, Xiao Yuan agrees and casts a healing skill, restoring 144 HP. Qin Haoren watches the feline demon and thinks he needs to change stances to counterattack, but suddenly the monster's face is right in front of him. The demon cat gives him a playful slap that sends him flying. He floats midair, losing and regaining HP in a loop. He crashes down and mutters, "I'm an insanely strong person." With just 1% health left, he begs them to stop and let him die already. Lu Jio seriously says that not even 5 players could take down a level 35 boss. Xiao Yuan, tense, says they need to open an escape route for Qin Haoren. She turns around and is shocked to see Lu Jio already on the other side of the rooftop. She yells, asking when she even ran that far. Lu Jio gives an awkward smile and says that even though they teamed up to win, this situation isn't about winning anymore. Their contract is broken. Xiao Yuan, scared, says she understands but that this is going too far. The demon cat gets ready to attack Qin again, who pretends to be dead. Xiao Yuan screams his name in panic. At that moment, Xia Yi opens the door to the floor and walks in cheerfully, asking, "Isn't that Bao Bao?" Immediately, the demon cat shrinks and runs to him. It jumps into Xia Yi's arms, and he smiles, happy to see it's okay. Everyone is in shock watching him hold the same cat that almost killed them. Xiao Yuan, trembling, thinks, that demon cat, the boss of the instance, is his pet. They go into the apartment. Xia Yi looks at the cupboard with Bao Bao on his head and asks, "Out of food? Litter, cans, bowls." Qin Haoren watches and says that even though things didn't go as planned, at least everyone made it out alive. That guy may look weak, but he tamed the instance boss. He's probably way more valuable than they thought. And as long as he's alive, they can benefit from it. He calls out to Enlu and tells her she made the right choice. He looks at Lu Jio and says that unlike certain people, she's the most reliable teammate. He asks if she wants to be rewarded with a hug from someone insanely strong. He tells her not to worry. As long as they follow him, they'll stay the strongest team. But out of nowhere, Enlu charges and slashes both of them with a dagger. They collapse, bleeding. She looks at them with disdain, and says just thinking about them turning on Lord Xia Yi makes her want to kill. Qin Haoren, terrified, asks what she's doing. Enlu stares at him with a wicked look and asks, "How dare you question me here?" She slices him again, twice. Xiao Yuan begs her to stop. Enlu looks down on her, and says they don't even realize who they're messing with. Xia Yi pets Bao Bao on his shoulder, and says he got what he came for. Now they can go back. That's his cat. It wasn't with him when the world changed, so he decided to find it no matter what. Enlu looks at Bao Bao and asks, "So the treasure was a cat?" She then bows to Xia Yi, startling him, and solemnly declares she understands everything now. From this moment on, they are companions. Xia Yi looks at the 2 bleeding bodies on the ground in silence for a few seconds. Then, realizing what just happened, he screams in horror, "What the hell just happened here?" Xiao Yuan rushes to heal them while Enlu, completely calm, says she saw they were hurt, and, unable to save them, decided to ease their suffering. Qin Haoren, fuming, says, "I still had, like 60% of my HP. What kind of wound was that?" Enlu looks away and says, "The wound was too deep." Qin Haoren gets up furious, yelling that she's the one who did it. She fakes regret and says something super dramatic, claiming there's no more hope for him. Xiao Yuan tries to speed up the healing, but it's not enough. The bleeding is too intense. Qin Haoren's HP is dropping way too fast, and she can't heal him in time. From a distance, Enlu smirks, thinking, on top of everything else, he even poisoned the dagger. Qin Haoren's body starts to fade. He realizes he didn't die to the level 22 sewer rat, or the level 35 demon cat, but now he's dying because of a player. He realizes he made a mistake, and starts to regret it, but it's too late. Just then, Xia Yi catches everyone's attention, saying he wants to try something. He pulls out a bandage glowing with a purple light and asks, "Will this work?" A system window pops up. Phantom cloth bandage standard. Item rank A. Usage requirements. First aid skill. Effect. Restores 36,500 HP over 8 seconds. Qin Haoren stares in shock and says that bandage can only be used with the first aid skill. Lugio asks if it's really such a high-level bandage. First aid is one of the most expensive skills to learn. Plus, you have to level up bandage crafting from level 1 to 45. A bandage like that heals as much as 5 professional healers at once, and can even be used mid-combat on level 80 tanks. But at the start of the game, resources were scarce. Nobody invested in that skill. Players couldn't even afford it. With a smile, Xiaoyi says he just wanted to survive in this world, so he figured learning to heal was the smartest move. That's why first aid was the first skill he leveled. He never thought it'd come in handy like this. Qin Haoren stares at him, completely stunned, thinking. He threw out 10 gold coins like it was nothing, made the dungeon boss his pet, mastered first aid, and I still had the nerve to attack him. Are we all just complete idiots? Anlu watches and thinks, is he going to heal them just to kill them again? As expected of the Lord, he really knows how to have fun. A dark aura starts to pour out of her, and she bursts into laughter. Qin Haoren and Lugio freak out and say maybe they'd rather not be saved. Xiaoyi sits in front of them, hands over the bandage, and says, just use it already. Qin Haoren stares at the bandage, shocked. It really is phantom cloth. Do I even deserve something like this? He was about to say more, but Xiaoyi cuts him off. Enough. What's more valuable than a life? Overcome with emotion, Qin Haoren starts crying at Xiaoyi's kindness, saying he now owes him everything. A system window appears. It's a trade request. With a calm smile, Xiaoyi says he didn't plan on charging anyone, but since they're insisting so much, he won't turn them down. Then he bursts into laughter. The system announces, Qin Haoren has lost 12 gold and 52 silver coins, now completely broke. Lugio also lost everything, 82 silver coins. Xiaoyi now holds 13 gold and 34 silver coins. He smiles and says there's no need to worry anymore. Since they paid him, he won't let them die. He applies the phantom cloth bandage. Qin Haoren feels amazing. He thinks, this isn't just a bandage. This thing healed even my soul. A system window appears in front of him, Lugio, and Xiao Yuan. Qin Haoren, blushing with shame, holds up the notification and says he doesn't care that he lost all his money. Everyone's stunned. All 3 of them leveled up, and their classes improved just from using the bandage. They check themselves and realize their wounds are gone, and they also got a buff. Even their bodies feel refreshed. The 3 of them gasp at the same time, completely shocked, thinking, that must have been a hidden modifier on the phantom cloth bandage. They kneel and bow. Qin Haoren forces Xiao Yuan to do the same, and shouts to their boss that they're beyond grateful. He says from now on, they'll treat him like an older brother, and will gladly die for him. Xiaoyi turns them down with a smile, saying there's no need to go that far. He helped because he wanted to, not for honor. Then he casually adds that the bandage costs 30 gold coins, but they can pay him back later, nice and easy, with 35% annual interest. And Lu looks at him, embarrassed, and thinks, now I get it. He's going to crush them the dirtiest way possible, through loan sharking. Yep, that's our real boss. Sometime later, the system announces that the team has cleared the dungeon and gained 50,000 EXP. International announcement. Qin Haoren, Lugio, Xiao Yuan, Lu, and Xia Yi have completed the residential building dungeon. Players outside see the announcement and start commenting. Xia Yi, still stunned, stares into space. Then he turns around, panicked, and asks, wait, that house was a dungeon the whole time? Qin Haoren nods and thinks, and he even made the dungeon boss his pet. Roland, busy elsewhere, also sees the notification and his eyes go wide. The Demon King cleared his own dungeon, he thinks, shocked. Back in the University City, people are pointing at the group. They're back. That's the team that cleared the dungeon, right? They wonder how they managed something like that, especially for a dungeon above floor 10. Xiaoyi blushes, thinking it had nothing to do with him. He was just a customer. But someone points at him and says, that guy over there, that's Qin Haoren, that pro gamer who dominated MMORPGs. His title appears. He's incredibly powerful. Now it all makes sense. With someone like him, of course they beat it. Qin Haoren, with that smug grin, says they've clearly heard of him, but insists it wasn't just him. They only won because of his little bro. Suddenly someone yells from the front, telling them to accept their honors. And Lu turns and asks who said that. Everyone sees Roland, standing in the street with a totally drained expression. He's thinking the most important thing now is to keep quiet. He cannot let anyone learn the Demon King's true identity. He straightens up discreetly, fixes his posture, and walks over. He says not just anyone can accomplish something like that on behalf of Celestial City. He offers his congratulations. Xia Yi, touched, calls him brother, while Qin Haoran cringes, thinking he didn't have to shout it like that. Then Roland ties up the 4 team members with a whip and says he's personally escorting them to get their medals. The crowd looks confused and asks, why did they leave Xia Yi out? With a calm smile, Xia Yi answers that he was just a customer, so he wasn't invited. He even smiles and says it's fine, really. Later, in an alley, Roland punches a wall in frustration and shouts, have you never had a near-death experience or what? Stop saying stupid stuff. Qin Haoran, shaking, asks what he means. Could it be that humanity's last hope has such a terrifying side? Roland looks at the others and says the guy they were with has an extremely complicated personality. Lu Jiu calmly asks what he means by that. He asks if they noticed how Xia Yi never mentioned his rank or class. She asks if maybe he was just hiding it. Roland replies, it's not that he was hiding it, he doesn't have one, and then drops the bomb. He's not a player. Everyone is in shock, shouting in confusion. Qin Haoran asks, what do you mean he's not a player? Lu Jiu says, what kind of explanation is that? And Lu, calmly standing in the back, says, then he must be a demon. Lu Jiu spins around, shocked, and asks what she's talking about. And Lu smiles and replies, with power like that, he's gotta be a high-level demon. Roland stares at her, surprised, thinking he never expected the quiet one to be so sharp. But that's even better, he confirms, you're right, but there's more. With a serious tone he says, his true identity is the Demon King. Everyone in the team, except Lu, is completely stunned by Roland's revelation. He says Xia Yi disguised himself so perfectly as a newbie with a glitched account. Even he started to believe it. To avoid the worst-case scenario, they'll need to monitor his every move. If the Demon King is forced to reveal himself, it will spell disaster. The 4 of them are at the top of the rankings. They're the best players out there. To Roland, they're humanity's last hope, just like him. He extends his hand to Qin Haoran and proposes an alliance. They need to find a way to kill the Demon King. Qin Haoran shakes his hand immediately and says victory will be theirs. He turns to the team and says they now have a deal. Before leaving, he flashes a smile and says together they'll bring justice and save the world. Lu Jiu, suspicious, asks if he really wants to join Roland and fight Xia Yi, considering how strong Xia Yi is. Qin Haoran replies with his usual fake smile, of course not. I was just fooling him. As a pro gamer, I see things clearly. No one in the world can match Xia Yi's power, so why risk my life by becoming his enemy? He still remembers being betrayed at the most dangerous moment, so those who betray others have no moral ground to talk about justice. Lu Jiu nods calmly and says their goal is to win. Qin Haoran looks at the others and asks what they think. And Lu, cold as always, says if they want to keep being Lord Xia Yi's little dogs, that's fine, but she's leaving the team. Qin Haoran is offended by being called a little dog, especially since she used to be obedient and submissive. Now she's acting completely different, and that annoys him. Xiao Yuan tries to say something hesitantly, that he'd like to go with them, but can't even finish the sentence. Qin Haoran interrupts him. Perfect. The decision is made then. With a big smile, he says they'll become villains together. And so, for the first time, a group of players joins the Demon King's side. Some time later, a man looks out a window and asks if it's true about the rumor of a player team clearing an instance. The guy behind him confirms it, and says humans are persistent. They can push past their limits, and achieve unexpected results. The man gets hopeful, saying now there's a real chance to defeat the Demon King. He asks if Roland has returned. The other answers he has good news and bad news. The man says start with the good news. The guy says, Roland is back. The man instantly perks up and asks if that means the mission to kill the Demon King was successful. Then the other drops. The bad news is he brought the Demon King with him. The man turns shocked, asking if this is some kind of joke. One guy explains that Roland sent a message saying the Demon King wasn't born as a baby like everyone thought. He's already an adult. Roland is ready to explain everything in detail personally to the High Command, and the general has already been summoned to the meeting room. Meanwhile, several employees greet Roland at the building entrance. One of them approaches and says they're waiting for him and if he needs anything, just let them know. Roland smiles kindly and replies he will if he needs anything. But as soon as he walks away, his face turns serious. He enters a room filled with system windows, with eyes watching everything. Someone starts the meeting saying they need to discuss what happened with the Demon King. Roland replies the situation took a completely unexpected turn. He says the Demon King managed to bend heart-shaped steel without using his hands. Everyone in the room is stunned. Not even the system artifacts could stop him. They comment he must have absurd power. But then, why didn't he destroy everything at once? Did he just want to show off his strength? But why? What's his goal? Roland says from what he observed, the Demon King wanted him to allow the Demon King to join the humans. He made a deal, committed to it, and that's why he's acting friendly. The group asks again what his motive could be, even getting irritated. Does he really think asking those questions will get an answer? How do you understand what a dark creature thinks? Roland says he still believes he discovered the Demon King's true objective. Everyone perks up and praises him, saying as expected he's brave and smart, the real hope of humanity. They asked him to explain what the Demon King's real plan is. Roland looks serious and says, his goal is to infiltrate the players' society, create chaos in political systems and alliances, and completely destroy humanity. Everyone is shocked and starts talking loudly, trying to understand what he means. And honestly, it made sense. Roland calmly explains that when he found Xiaoyu that day, Xiaoyu was already infiltrating the strongest player team at the time. Luckily, he arrived just in time to foil the plan. He also says he established a friendly cooperation with Jin Haoren. Everyone praises him even more as humanity's hope and adds, so that's why the Demon King created that dungeon. Now it all makes sense. Roland interrupts before the guy finishes and says yes, they understood correctly. The Demon King did all that to build a reputation and confuse everyone. Roland explains that in the game world there are now two types of monsters. The first type obeys the supreme evil, animals and plants modified and dominated by demons. The second type are the demons themselves, who answer directly to the Demon King and are the true enemies of the world. This type commands all demons and wants to destroy everything.